Hello to everyone who's here, unless I'm alone. It's weird. I got a like, but no one's watching yet. So this is interesting. Just clean my glasses before I start. Day of drawing and running errands and stuff will invariably taking on, putting off, putting them back on will somehow get your glasses filthy. So here I am. Tonight I am drawing Robbie Robertson, who passed away this week at the I guess the good stretch of 80 years. He had an amazing career. He's quite possibly one of the most important musical creators in my among the people I like. I mean, there's David Bowie. There's Robbie Robertson with the band and his solo work and all the soundtrack stuff, which is amazing. Peter Gabriel, to a lesser degree, Genesis after Peter Gabriel left. But Robbie Robertson with the work he created with the band, and then I would say probably every single one of his solo albums were strong, but Storyville was probably the one that meant the most to me. So I was probably going to do either a talk about George Bridgman, since no commission came in. So I was either going to talk about George Bridgman. This is the very first, literally the very first George Bridgman book I ever bought. It's actually held up because Dover Books, which I believe is now defunct, really made well crafted books. The binding is still holding up, even though some of the spine is just letting go from age and wear and environmental stuff. It's just holding up. There's some yellowing here of the glue, but it's actual stitching, high quality printing, high quality paper. These books were made to last. I've had a couple of the big compendium books. I'm talking about Bridgman. I said I was going to save it for next week, but I'm going to talk about it since I was ready. I've had a few of the compendiums, the 8.5 by 11 George Bridgman's Guide to Drawing from Life, and it has all of his material in it. But when I first bought these, there was the 5 Dover editions broken down in different subjects. And I actually feel that this version is better. If I was teaching, I think I could only buy the bigger edition. But I would probably use these incremental bits as a guide to teaching from it. But I'll do this next week unless I get another commissioner. Hopefully no one else dies. That really matters to me. So yeah, so I this is most of the reference I use. You can see where it's like, because I'm printing it, I got rid of all the darks, so I'm using less ink because trying to be frugal, environmental, because those ink cartridges just fill landfills. So yeah, so this is the photo reference I used for what he was wearing, the posing, all that stuff. Did the drawing, scanned it out, printed out in light blue, although it looks really gray for some reason. I don't know, maybe I had it set on gray tone, but that won't affect the inking here. Not 100% sure what I'm going to do stylistically with it, other than once I nail the likeness, I'm going to start reacting to how the lines are going down and what I do with it. So yeah, so let's get started. If anyone's here, well, I got 2 likes now, and I got 2 people watching. Say hi. Love to see who's repeat viewers, and I got. Gonna get into this. I've done a few rock stars. I've done like Kurt Cobain, Charlie Watts, George Harrison, the Beatles. I like Bowie a few times. Rock stars kind of in the music really stick with me. I think it's mainly because the career. Spending so much of my time in the studio alone, means that the only company I generally have is music or movies. Like what I on my computer, I'll stream movies that I've watched to the point where I don't feel I have to watch them entirely. Um, like Jaws, I'll throw Jaws on and I'll just look away from my drawing to see certain key scenes. And so otherwise, the sound keeps me company, keeps me my brain from being overwhelmed with the silence of the studio environment. Um, yeah, so the music's a big part of like just the day to day operations of being an artist here for me. So that's why like when Bowie and Prince and so many other musicians. I almost did Sinead O'Connor. That one was almost too hard to do. I actually started a piece, but I didn't like. I saw some really really beautiful tributes to Sinead O'Connor, and I felt that I would just be making noise at that point. But Robbie, I mean, apart, he's also Canadian. There's that kind of factors in a bit too. Um, I grew up with a weird thing that for a long time I held to, which made Robbie even more important. My grandmother used to tell a story that basically suggested that I was Métis or um, partly Indigenous Canadian, and I think a lot of families have. As I got older, I realized that even though both my grandparents and my grandfather, who never could claim he was Métis, got his Métis card in Manitoba. So for the longest time, I believed I had essentially some indigenous blood in me, and that was part of what made Robbie Robertson more important because he's also indigenous Canadian, indigenous and Jewish actually. Um, if you want to read a fascinating story, look up Robbie Robertson's biography. If I remember correctly, his father was a Jewish mobster in Toronto, and so that's his background. It's pretty fascinating. He lived an amazing life, and I think he is one of the, in terms of creative Canadians, I think he stands head and shoulders above the vast majority of people who are Canadian and made music and art. And as I understand, he spent the better part of the last 10, 20 years um, supporting, nurturing, and coaching other young Canadian musicians, in addition to his soundtrack work and musical work. Writing his biography just came out. I have it. I just haven't had a chance to read it yet. So yeah, an incredibly important Canadian. Just to follow up on the whole Indigenous thing. So Americans will remember there was a bit of a kerfuffle when one of the Elizabeth Warren claimed to have uh, Indigenous American ancestry, and it was just a family story. And when that came out, and I realized, despite my grandmother having her Métis card, it was just a story, and there was no way to prove. Oh, I just realized I didn't put on my mic. There was no way to prove I was Métis. We grew up middle class white in Winnipeg, and the whole. So I really felt at that point a little embarrassed um, of the whole thing. So I don't go around claiming that aspect of it anymore. It's there's a phrase that vets use called stolen valor. I feel that's an accurate term for this. It's I haven't earned it. I didn't live the life. I don't have that position. But for the longest time, I thought, like Robbie, I was part indigenous. And yeah, so that's not there anymore. Little digression, sorry. Oh, here we go. Hi, Anzan. Oh yeah, Last Waltz. I watched that. Did you watch the Band of Brothers? Was it the Band of Brothers? Damn it. They did a documentary last year. I think it was last year. Robbie talking about the whole history of the band, and it was just a great series. I loved it. I'm a sucker for anything having to do with the band. So if you see that, yeah, such a good show. So I think I'm going to be a little more loose. I'm going to be tight in the face until I capture a likeness. I'm already feeling that the line work here is a little stiff in the mouth. If I can't get this face the way I want it, I'm just going to print another one and start it again. I haven't had to do that yet. I'm always saving that as a trick in my bag where it's like, oh, I screwed up. I have to start again. The important thing is to get the sense of some life in the drawing. I think you know what I mean. Get it so that this feels like it is actually something for performance and not a drawing based on, like, 5 or 6 different Robbie Robertson concert photos. And I'm thinking that, like the Marv I did last week, I think I'm going to do this one. This one's going to go to the food bank again too. Whatever I get for it, I'll do like an open, like make an offer. I said yes to the first offer for Marv, and they got like 3 offers almost immediately after, and I was like, well, too late. Sorry. But honestly, it all goes to a good cause. So you got to do what you got to do, man. All right. Let's get some of those. Oh. Yeah, but I think it's true. Yeah. He really did. I think growing up and having to experience so many different things right off the bat, and then being such I think journeyman's almost an insult, but he was a journeyman creator where he's like, working with Ronnie Hawkins, and then being part of the backup band for Dylan. Gave him a very different experience of what it was like to be an artist in the world. And I think that that's a big part of why he was able to capture things about the American experience that the other people in from the band wouldn't have been able to do without his presence there. I have a feeling that he's moving back and forth. So initially the line work's going to look a little stiff, but I'm going to be like doing some kind of like crazy line work on this. I also want to get the sense of concert lighting. So I might be doing a lot of splatter in this as they go along. Yeah, so I'm going to be building up a lot of tones in here, and I might be burying them with white paint almost as soon as I'm done. What I did I did almost a tonal drawing, a very loose, messy side of pencil drawing, and then I traced it off with a little more of a linear. I don't know if you can see some of the line work here. I just kind of like surrounded some of the gray tone areas, and to give me a kind of a demarcation of like where the different values are going to go. Likeness, I think likeness is entirely about studying um, how shapes come together and being able to compare them. It's very much about training your hand to make marks where you think they need to be. That might sound a little reductive or redundant, but I see a lot of artists who study drawing for a long time, and then they go, "Well, I can't do likeness," and that entirely comes down to um, not being able to say, "Okay, well, the nostrils here. Where's the underside of the nose? Did I get that space the right size? Are they too far apart? Are they too close together? And all that stuff." And there's a lot of exercises. When I was teaching drawing, I reduced them down to little exercise. I might do little videos on them in the not too distant, where I would have. It probably seemed really tedious. I'm sure the kids hated it, but the ones who did it, you could immediately see the improvement in their work. Do things like draw like a 1 inch cube in pen, like 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch. Make sure it's square, and then a 1/4 inch to the right of it, draw another identical 1 inch cube, and you're looking at the first cube and trying to match the second cube identical to it. And you do a whole column of it on a piece of paper you're working on, and then you do another, sorry, no, a whole row of them, and then you start a column and then the row, and you do as many as you can. And I think I give them like, do 20 minutes of it every day. And the entire point of that was for them to use their eyes. I'm sure some students cheated um, and used rulers and stuff like that. But the point of the exercise was for them to actually, okay, I can see when something's not quite a 1/4 inch. And if you can, with your eye, without a ruler, start seeing when things aren't matching up the way they're supposed to, then you're going to have a good shot at being able to do things like likeness or precise drawing. And that was why I taught that way. And I'm sure there's students who still hate me. They go, "Remember Payson's cubes?" Because right after cubes came circles. Yeah, I explained how circles fit completely into cubes. So a lot of any understanding of likeness comes from just that stuff. And I'm using a ballpoint. I've talked about it a few times where it's like a lot of times I'll use ballpoints at a steep angle, so I'm actually getting a finer line out of the pen than it's actually designed to do. So that's what I'm doing here. So I know full well I'm going to be very, very delicately building up tones as I go through. Down there, this and start kind of master going up. I want to get that sense coming here. Okay. so take a look here. Hey, Stacy. There is Anson, there is a very, 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 very light. I wonder if I push it up close. There is a drawing here. There's a drawing. I spent most of the day fighting with it to get the likeness, and so now, and then I did a secondary drawing on top of that to get more of a precise linear approach to it, and I'm inking over that. So no, I'm not. Kim Jong Un is brilliant in the sense that he could literally go right to ink and I don't think I've ever seen him do a likeness live. He might have, and I missed it. But my God, I got a few of his art books, and they're so good. And but he was able to draw, like, go straight to ink on so many things. There's a few other artists I've seen do that too. I wish I could think of them offhand. There's a number of artists who literally go straight to ink on almost everything. That said, this is not that tight a drawing. I don't really do tight pencils anymore. Once I get the information down that I think I need to get the drawing done, I stop. Because otherwise the inking becomes tracing my lines, and it becomes less about the Adam's apple. I kind of buried it a bit here. There we go. There we go. I'm pretty sure this is going to be. I might do some like concert lights, or I might just do black and just let this come out. But I let so much of his career he wore a black jacket on stage, which was like a little almost antithetical to like what a lot of rock stars did on stage, and yeah, I didn't really draw this shirt very well. I just kind of went, there's gonna be a shirt there. There was here we go. Yeah, going straight to inks is boss. I've done straight up ink drawing a lot of times in my sketchbook. When I keep one, I just travel with a pen. I don't do any pencil work. Something I made my students do. It really, drawing straight up in ink does force you to make decisions. And a lot of people who work solely with pencil, sadly, a lot of times they just don't make decisions. It's just like I can draw and erase. I can draw and erase. But with ink, once that line's down, even if it's a tentative line, it's I drew this really hard line right here, and that example of a mistake. I shouldn't have drawn that. I should have left it looser. I might go back in with some white paint near the end and like break that up a bit. I'm also giving him a scarf. For a long period, he was constantly wearing scarves. Big 70s. It's gonna be weird with so much darkness going through it. Like his hair is like all. I'm just gonna draw the periphery with like some scribbly lines because I know I'm gonna bust that up later. So okay, that works. I just needed to get a stronger line indicating the hair. Okay, I'm gonna jump from. I've been doing all this work with the super fine 005, and I'm jumping up to 01, which is twice the thickness. I'm going to work on that hair, and then once I get the hair, then I can probably do a lot of. I'm going to jump to the hands. The hands are really tricky. Guitar playing does so many weird things to the fingers. Um, all about them values, baby. Not about the bass. All about the values. And using all these little. I mean, it's one thing where it's like if I manage to have like a really high quality photo book of say the band and Robbie Robertson, I'd be able to have these really, really high quality photos on hand to use as reference. Instead, I got all these really blurry, tiny JPEGs harvested from the internet. And so that's what I'm working with. Not to whine. I'm whining. Yeah, I'm whining. I shouldn't be whining. It's so standard. But that's what I'm working with here. I'd be able to get a little bit more precision in with higher quality reference. So I'm looking at these tiny little printouts here, and what looked fine or serviceable in a soft edge of pencil drawing is not quite cutting it in ink. So I have to be really careful with the line works as I lay them down. Yeah, it's oh hey Stacy, have a good night. Yeah, so I was always a big light dark fan. Like shadows, getting that those values in the drawing were always really, really important to me. And early comics, oh God, my early comics work where it's like you're drawing for someone else to ink, someone else to color. It almost butchers the entire artistic process. Um, just laying down some dark spots I can see in a little. I'm primarily leaning on this is the face I based this on. So I'm trying to see all these little tiny hair details. So this is about the size of my thumbnail, and it's a thumbnail drawing. And I'm trying to visualize this up to this scale because I ended up drawing the original. Where is it? It's probably in my scanner still. The original drawing was on 14 by 17. It was a little bigger, and I didn't do the full guitar on it. I just did this part, and that's what I scanned, cleaned up, and everything to get onto the paper here. Yeah. It's almost like a dark shape all the way down through here. So I think I'm gonna. Lay down some dark. I see like there's a shadow. You can see what I'm trying to puzzle out here. There's this really nice dark shape right here. You can see where I deleted the dark inks. There's some white lines in there. There's a nice dark shape going back here, which is going to fade into the background because I'm going to do black. So I should really establish the value here and then all the way through here as really dark, and then do line details on top of that. So I'm put down like a base tone value of near black, and then once I have this near value here, I can go back in and draw like hair details, and it'll read as he had that wavy hair he had, without me having to draw every single strand and everything. And I want this to kind of blend in a bit. Can I get that motion blur thing happening without actually drawing like, super squidgy lines? Hopefully that makes sense. Honestly, I heard, was it last year, from someone who knows more about them, uh, um, knows Robbie. So he said that Robbie wasn't doing well. So as I understand it, it was a long illness. I don't think the family released what he passed from, and because normally, if they know what he died from, they'll say it like, Robbie Robertson dies at 80 from cancer. Um, so the fact that none of the headlines are running around saying, what he died from, means that the family doesn't want to talk about it. It may have been traumatic. It might have been, who knows, you might have had something really significant and sudden, and then he struggled with it for a year, and it's hard on the family. They don't want to talk about it, and I appreciate and understand that. So it's um, uh, you can speculate. I mean, dying from 80 could be natural causes. Could just be a culmination. I mean, he was a smoker for a long time. A lot of people from that era were smokers a long time. So there just could be, complications from living is what I often call it. It's like, you lived a life and eventually it catches up. I mean, I was on the elevator today, and it has one of those TVs in it, and it's talking about, it has headlines and stuff, and it basically said there's a new study coming out that having played football increases the likelihood you'll develop Parkinson's later in life. And I played football from the ages of 9 to 16. Then I switched over to flag football for a few years. But yeah, I mean, if I make it to 80, which I'll be happy if I do, because most of my family die in their 70s, there's a very good chance that part of why I'll be passing is be complications from Parkinson's, if that study is accurate. We never know what damage we do to ourselves, or at least a lot of us don't know what damage we're doing to ourselves when we're starting this stuff, when we're living our lives, when we're younger. So yeah, I wish I knew what Robbie passed away from, only in as much as I would probably, if it was like some sort of cancer fund or heart fund, I would probably say, okay, whoever buys this, the money, I'm going to donate the money to a fund directly related to whatever took him down. But as it is, I'll probably just do food bank. That's my go-to. Seems to help the living more than anything else. I'm probably going to let this jacket go, but I want to put the information down so that I'd much rather have the information down and then start getting rid of it than a blank and they have to start scratching it out. If that makes sense. Yeah, this is darker down here than it is up there. So I'm going to darken down a bit. I think the keyboardist is still alive. I think there's oh god, I'm blanking on his name. I was just, again, I just watched the documentary that Robbie did a couple years ago in the band, and he was in it. I think Danko's dead. We all Levon Helms passed. Robbie's passed. If someone wants to look it up, that'd be great because then everyone could know. It's sad. It's one of those things where it's like, we're at the age now where more and more of the people that developed rock through the 60s and 70s are just going to pass. We're going to lose all those guys, all those giants. And I don't know that the music industry is doing anything to create new giants. I mean, it never really did, but there was room for um, uh, people to create careers and art forms, and it seems like the last 30 years, starting in the 90s, after the grunge movement, everything became so what makes money, and I think it was also, I think it goes hand in hand with the collapse of the record industry as we understood it, with the whole Napster thing and streaming, and the way the executives were able to say, well, we're not making money off everything, and the artists believed them, and and everything became commercialized to the point where if you want to be a unique artist, you have to be so indie that you almost develop no audience. And whereas, like, you have the band who worked for years and years and years. I mean, working with Dylan, and then doing your own work, like songs from Big Pink. Um, I know an interesting story about Big Pink. I don't think I should say because I don't know how public it is, and I don't want to piss off some people. But yeah, there's a pretty famous celebrity who owns the house Big Pink. If you don't know, Big Pink was the house that most of the band members were staying at, and that's where they recorded songs from Big Pink. That's thus the name of the album. Um, yeah. Use the edge on the 01 here to push back the values in here, because I don't want that white popping up too much. I want more of that value there. All right. Well, I think this is squint, squint, squint. Everyone knows if you squint at your drawings and you're not wearing glasses, everything becomes blurry, and you just see more of the values and the details. The details start disappearing. So I do a lot of squinting. There we go. All right. Let's. So this is going to be a scarf coming down here. It's going to be a jacket. It's going to be wearing a black jacket. I just kind of made up the jacket here. Collar's going to cast a shadow. The scarf's going to cast a shadow. White sleeve on the shirt, or lighter sleeve on the shirt. Jacket on top of the guitar. That's all going to disappear. Get that scarf coming down there. I might have everything fade off into black and just have the scarf and shadow trail off into the dark shape here. So, thinking it through as I go. And it's going to be like really dark here. Yeah. Spot the band stage lights so intense that the shadows, especially at key points, are just insanely dark. In many ways, I really think as I'm getting older, a lot of the songs from the band are actually becoming more important to me because I understand them a little bit more, and they take on new meanings that they may not have had at the time when I was originally listening to them, as when I first fell in love with them. I don't know if any of you guys have that. You know what? I didn't figure out what I was going to do in terms of his chest hair. So probably actually should use a lighter. I don't want that to dominate or anything here. I just want some indication of the fact that his shirt is open. Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is he's got the white um, part here, not the fret, but the white plastic on top of the guitar here, or ivory. I'm not sure. And if the light's hitting him hard, that's going to glow. So I might have like a really intense light hitting the guitar, and do some white splatter to really get the idea that this light's bouncing everywhere. I don't know. Feel pretty good to get a lot of light into this drawing, even though it's going to be like a black background. All right, guitar strap. Oof. One of my favorite moments from the last waltz is Eric Clapton's guitar strap breaking, and then Robbie immediately stepping up the cover. So there's like no break in the music, no disruption. He just immediately starts playing as if it was his solo, instead of like Eric Clapton playing the lead on it. And then Clapton came back, and then they did a little back and forth. I think they ended up calling it a guitar duel, but it wasn't really a duel. It was really just you know, Robbie doing what he did. He was always helping people. I think that's what part of what made Robbie so fucking magical. I don't know how dark I want to go with the shirt. I do want it to get a sense that there's a shadow happening here. Jacket's going to be dark. I mean, in this photo here, he's wearing a pinstripe jacket, but I don't know if I'm going to do the pinstripes. That seems like it might be too much. I might scratch out or do some white paint to indicate them, but then have it go straight to shadow, because this is going to be black. This is going to be black. This is going to be black. It's going to be black. There's going to be shadow coming in the shoulder, black. So this will all be black, and if the background's black, all of this is going to bleed into the black. So see that, and if I start doing pinstripe in that, then it's like it's going to be a little much. I don't know if I can pull that off. I don't think I'll be doing any rubber stamps in that. That feels, yeah, conversation. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, conversation. I think that's a great term for it. I think I've actually seen it called a conversation before. Yeah. Oh man. I'm feeling really sad drawing this. Not complaining or anything, but it's like I'm like, oh man. I'll feel better after having drawn it, if that makes sense. It just feels like for my own grief, not being a part of his family or knowing him or anything, just knowing him as a fan. Um, it's this will help. Sorry, just looking at my own hand here for reference. pinky's going behind one of the knobs on the guitar here. Oh, I didn't really draw the board here. I'm gonna have to do it. God, I'm gonna have to do this from memory. Um, Dylan's talked about Robbie before, and considering Dylan's older than Robbie, if I remember correctly, he might be dealing with this sort of grief a lot more heavily than many other people. Um, I mean, I think it'd be pretty easy to find some Dylan comments on Robbie um, before now from recent history. And yeah, I know Dylan had said some very kind things about Robbie in the not too distant past, and I'm pretty sure he's hurting, and I'm sure a lot of people are asking him to say something, and he may not know what to say right now. I mean, it's a hard thing to lose someone that was. I mean, the band was incredibly important to Dylan's life and career, and he was incredibly supportive of them when they went doing their own thing. And as far as I know, there was never any bad blood. So it could very well be that Dylan's experiencing his grief in this way. Again, I don't know. And honestly, Dylan's gone through so many weird phases in his life. I mean, it's hard to know that maybe he's in the middle of something that he can't really escape from to talk about. Robbie's passing just might be too much for him right now. Yeah, I'm going to be doing some really intense white splatter out from. God, I can't remember what that part of the guitar is called. That little plate. Um, yeah, I gotta say, I don't know. I mean, there's people in comics I've been friends with for a very long time. And some of them are much older than me. If something happened to them right now, I don't know if I'd be able to formulate a response other than like the most superficial pap. And I maybe that's too much for Dylan to deal with right now. It's just let's yeah. I mean, here I am. I never met Robbie, and I'm taking an evening to do a drawing of Robbie. So imagine what it would be like for someone who spent years with him and had a lifelong friendship with him. I mean, we're talking about they'd be friends in the '60s. So I mean, we're talking like, oh my god. Even let's say it was sorry, no, it's 60s. 60s, so 70s, 80s, 90s. We're talking 50 years of friendship. That's hard, man. That's really hard. I think I got that hand right. Let me get that. Peg in there. I want to put a pattern on that scarf or just have it like that. A lot of the scarves are plain, like just like look like silk scarves. Yeah, was it Flowers of something moon or Shadows of Flower Moon or something like that? I'm looking forward to it. I heard it was the last thing he finished. He just finished it before he passed. Um, oh, the basement tapes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think of it's going to be so weird when we start losing. I mean, he's not much younger. Bruce Springsteen's in the 70s. Um, John Cougar Mellencamp is not much younger than Springsteen. Um, Tom Petty passed way earlier than I think anyone thought he would pass. I think everyone thought he would. And George Harrison's gone. I mean, of the Beatles, all we have left are Paul McCartney and Ringo. Um, it's going to be. There's so few artists that are coming up that craft as complex as enduring at this point music, um, compared to say the band or Bowie or Prince, um, Tom Petty, the Beatles, even the Bee Gees. I mean, there's only one Bee Gee left. I mean, you may not, you don't, no one has to like, disco, but you have to acknowledge that the Bee Gees did amazing things for music. Yeah, and if you're not a Bee Gees fan, all you have to do is like look at what Maurice Gibb did outside of the Bee Gees and realize that he was an incredibly talented who was grossly underrated, undervalued. Still, I mean, considering that he's still alive. Um, I'm gonna jump at this with this is a 5 again. I want to do that. I'm going to draw this hand, and then I'm going to switch up to a heavy marker. We're almost an hour in already. Yeah, I'm going slow. This might take me 2 hours tonight. So if you guys start bailing, I totally understand. Uh, yeah, and in the end, Keith Richards, Killers of the Flower Moon. Yeah, okay, there we go. Keith, yeah, Keith's going to outlive us all. And I know it's a uh, terribly tired joke. But at the rate things are going, it's going to be a shock when he passes. Um, because I mean, he survived so much of what he's done to himself. Um, kind of think I want to let a lot of this hand go into being like just almost like outline drawing. Just draw like the shadows face. Bill Sienkiewicz does this wonderful thing where he'll outline a value area and just throw a few sparse lines into it. And if anyone doesn't know that, Sienkiewicz is a big influence. Well, guess what? He does this wonderful thing. I should play with it a little bit more, but I don't want to be, copycat. But he'll outline an area so the information's all there, and then do like the lightest scribbling into it, like that. I think I'm going to steal that from his playbook right now. Actually, I should draw that part of the guitar first. Kind of want to leave the hand that loose. We'll see what happens when I start going in with the darks around that. Get that thumb in there. Kent Williams, back when he was inking, other people did a lot of that too. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's going to be a little bit of a white shirt there. It's going to peek back there, and the black jacket coming back around that. That scarf. Excuse me. I got right catch from the guitar strap. Highlight there. Then we'll go really dark in here. Come back around to that. That's going to be all dark too. Yeah, David Attenborough. Oh my gosh. There's so many people that earned their presence. This over. It's like when Walter Cronkite died. Since Walter Cronkite, there hasn't been one news personality that had that sense of gravitas and truth to them. I mean, regardless of whether or not Cronkite was complicit in covering up any government stuff. I've seen people say that. Just in essence of failing to report because people just weren't covering certain things. Since Cronkite, has there been a newscaster with the level of, yes, we believe what he's saying to us? That seems to be, I mean, and Cronkite inherited that from Murrow. We're less, every generation seems to be less than the one before in terms of just that type of stuff. And it's really sad. I don't know. He had his shirts out, so the jacket would come down here, around there. So his shirt would be open. Jacket would be coming there, and that's the scarf. So it's going to be there. That's going to be all dark. So it's name an artist in the last 10 years that you think has the potential of any of the greats we've lost, who started in the 70s and later. I can't think of one. I mean, maybe even the giants of rap. Most of them started in the 90s. You think about like the really, really, really huge. You say their name and the music just starts playing in your head. And I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too dark, but it seems like we're losing more than losing things far faster than we can ever replace them. And we have this kind of weird contempt in our culture now where we hold all artists as like being greedy because they want to earn. I mean, the amount of weird anti-union stuff I'm seeing right now because of the strikes going on. I mean, these are people who are just fighting for a livelihood, and I'm seeing people who are arguing that they should just shut up and work because I want my TV, and that is such a strange take because if the recent pandemic taught us anything, I mean, the things that entertain and distract us and engage us and connect us to people through that weird sort of like telepathy that art does. We need those. Um, and we need those people to be able to live because it goes away. And it's part of why I'm deeply against AI. AI is going to be, if it's allowed to happen, and I've spoken often about it. Like I've been on TV a few times now. I've done a few media interviews. AI has to be stopped from being allowed to invade most spaces, but most of all the creative space. It's going to be so destructive culturally. I mean, I've seen weird ass people like the generally. It's almost like the weird super pro Snyder people who think that everything should be dark and gritty, and anything that doesn't immediately feed into their notions of um, what comic books or media or anything. I've seen people screaming about Star Trek for crying out loud. Probably one of the most progressive franchises in the history of media, and saying it's going woke now. And I'm like, have you not watched Star Trek? But when you get AI out there, and a lot of people just don't understand what's going to happen, you're gonna get people who are going to be able to, they'll subscribe to an AI media service, say like Disney, who owns Star Wars, all the Marvel stuff, and say, you know what, I want to be the lead actor in a Spider-Man movie, and the computer will already have a 3D image scan of you, and they'll just map it to a Spider-Man body, and it'll create on the fly a Spider-Man movie to your parameters. And you go, that's sure, that sounds cool for a moment, and you realize, well, it's not going to have any value to anyone other than you. There will be no more shared experiences because everything's going to be ultimately super personalized. And that's part of what's coming down the pike with AI. No more actors, no more writers, no more directors, no more crews working on movies or TV, no more musicians, no more songwriters, no more writers. Because I mean, if you want a Stephen King story, nothing's stopping AI from creating for you, the individual, a Stephen King like story. And then there will be no more new horror writers because all the new experiences will be gobbled up by crappy AI stuff that's wholly derivative of everything else that's come along. I'm going to rant for a bit. I'm sorry. The AI stuff just oh my god. And there's it's algorithm material. I like to see that. And then, but I keep calling it AGM because that's what it really is. Everyone calling it AI has to take the moment to explain that, you know what, it's not really artificial intelligence, it's algorithms. It's just crunching the math on all the media it's been fed to create an approximation of something new based on prompts. And no, there is nothing I'm willing to give up for algorithms to take over this. They're even finding out, like they were singing the praises of algorithm generated stuff for medical use, and they're already finding huge flaws in it. And I'm happy to have seen the headline today where it's like Chat GPT might shut down because it's not making any money, which is lovely. Because it doesn't generate any money. It doesn't generate anything worth earning revenue on. But we still have to fight this because If Disney does, the big fear is a major corporation like the Discovery Warner Brothers thing or Disney, one of these companies deciding that we're going to develop our own AI and we're going to use it to generate all our content so we don't have to deal with the pesky actors, right? I mean, the current guy running Disney, where he just talked about how writers and actors are delusional that they want like 1.5% of the profits that all these media giants have been generating off their work. Um, it's so bizarre, and I know how we got here because we've been worshiping billionaires and millionaires for so long, thinking that they're better because they're rich. And if anything, Elon Musk has shown us that inheriting money does nothing for you, and people with lots of money and no brains will destroy and break things. And and it's those people with money who are going to make the decision to hand all the entertainment for next to no cost to AGM bots. And they'll say, you know what, we're going to do everything in AGM. It doesn't have to be good because it's going to be so cheap, no one's going to care. It's like movies are expensive, right? Movies are expensive. It's like you go see a movie, it's like what, 15 to 20 bucks per person. Without anything other than the experience of maybe a drink. And if you can create a movie in a matter of minutes with one of these high-end AI bots, even I just called it that, and it costs you like maybe 50 bucks in electricity. And you can just basically say, we're not going to go to theaters. We're just going to release it online. We're going to charge $5. And you get a brand new Avengers movie for $5. And you're not going to complain because it only costs $5. That's where they're headed. They're thinking that people won't complain because it's insanely cheap, and suddenly everything is going to be that insanely cheap garbage. And they won't have to deal with writers or directors or crews, most of which are unionized, ever again. And they'll be happy about that because all they have to do is say, okay, it's pure profit. We own the software, we own all the IP, we can do whatever we want. And I got to tell you, what's the next stage of that is these corporations will steal stuff. They will literally say, you know what, this little guy wrote a novel, it's really cool. I'm gonna it's close enough to a horror movie we already own. I'm gonna make a sequel using AI. But I'm going to steal the plot from that novel, and that guy, because the industry is going to be so weak, publishing industry, any creatives, everything's going to be so weak. They'll never have the money to sue a major corporation when they breach copyright. They won't be able to support themselves, and then copyright will fail to be an issue of any importance. And it may sound like I'm panicking, and there is a certain amount of panic. It's terrifying. I am absolutely convinced this is. I do not for one moment think that we can trust corporations when AI is in play. Okay, I think I got most of what I want on the paper here. I think I have to draw the rest of the guitar, the fret, and everything, and then I'm gonna have to start making some decisions about what I'm doing with the black and everything. But let me get the scarf done. Sorry for that rant. Thanks for agreeing with me. Makes me feel good. Yeah, we're just gonna have to fight AGM. We're gonna have to figure out. So we're gonna have to start getting governments saying that AGM cannot be used for profit basis, which is going to freak out all sorts of the uber pro capitalist crowd. But what that'll do is it'll have the effect of drying up the angel investors into AGM, um, in hopes of like finding some sort of amazing way to generate a lot of capital. God, I just had a crazy, stupid thought where I don't use any of my thick black markers and I just do everything in lines, and I would be here all night. I still might do it. The lovely thing about areas where I know I'm going to be going like really, really like near black is I can scribble out into them, and then the lines become a little less broken or a little less stiff. I would prefer that AGM programming require a license. Um, so if you want to use it in science tech, that there is a specific proposal, and there's people are going to be saying, well, then China will get ahead of us. Well, no, I think China is also afraid of algorithms. To be honest, um, I think they're going to be trying to control what it can and can't do as well. I think we have to start realizing that corporations are not the stewards of the economy that we always hear. The media say, job creators. They're not job creators. They you have to they only create jobs when they feel that there is a real viable way to make money off of hiring more people. They're not job creators. Um, they have money to create jobs, but they don't. They only hire people when they absolutely have to, and they invest in things like AGM so they can fire people. Um, I think what we could do is we could say, you know what, we have to create a minimum licensing. If you're, and we also have to do something about the way that they're just gleefully eliminating jobs and with zero consequences. I especially because I've been dealing with some medical stuff for the last little bit. I've been at Shoppers Drug Mart a lot lately for the last few weeks, and the main pharmacy chain up here in Canada. We have Rexall and a couple other ones, but Shoppers Drug Mart's the biggest one. And they every single one of them has a row or two. Oh shit! I have to fix that. A row of two of those automated self checkouts. Now I try and avoid them unless there's an insane line, because every one of those checkouts is replaced. If I remember the article right, every one of those kiosks replaces 2 to 3 workers. And Shoppers Drug Mart didn't have to pay a penalty for firing those people, for creating tech. I mean, think about it. If you're a government and you're able to operate your government out of tax revenue from workers, every time a company wipes out part of the workforce, you are losing your ability to do your job as a government. Um, No, I'm not. I'm not saying that I want to pay a ton of taxes, but I think our taxes with a well-run government, and we do have them some once in a while. With a well-run government, we need those tax dollars so we can have a good healthcare system in Canada, good roads, well-run schools, emergency services function properly. We need that tax revenue. So shoppers with their several thousand chains across Canada essentially killed, um, let's a conservative estimate, 7,000 jobs. So they no longer hire those people. Those people do not have jobs. Um, so they have to find a job somewhere else in an increasingly shrinking workforce market. Um, and But in the interim, a lot of them go on unemployment. And they've been paying unemployment insurance, but the unemployment insurance works because other people are working. But if all the companies, Walmart has like a whole area of self checkout. Um, I think Canadian Tire, all the hardware stores I've gone to in the last little while have self checkout areas. That's jobs everywhere, man. That's jobs everywhere. And where does the tax revenue replace in that? There's no tax revenue replacement. And I really think that whenever a company or corporation uses technology to immediately eliminate jobs, instead of just like taking it, I think more than anything else, we should um, immediately hit them with a penalty equivalent to the jobs cut. So if you okay, this is another rant. Sorry. Um, if you install technology that means you permanently don't need 3 employees at your store for at least 5 years, you have to pay a penalty of the full salary of those 3 employees as a tax that will go into the social safety net to pay these people with the equivalent of UBI. Because the more technology advances and wipes out jobs, the more people are going to be looking for jobs that just don't exist. And I think that's the type of thinking, like back in the good old days when I was a kid and I was reading things like Popular Science, and they were talking about the future where we're only going to have 3-day work weeks, and everyone's going to have a cottage and all these wonderful dreamy things. That was based on the idea that technology would allow us not to have to do all the work. But what's happened is all that money savings, all that time savings, has gone into corporate executives and shareholders. And the people who did the work, who built all the things, they're screwed. We're all screwed. So governments are going to have to wake up and realize that if we keep letting them be super friendly to all the corporations and letting them do whatever they want because it helps the shareholders, suddenly there's not going to be anything to govern. And I really don't think there's many politicians smart enough to get that. Not from how they're talking. This is either a dying 3 or it's not a 3. It's also gooping a bit. This might just be a dead marker, or dead pen. Give me another 3. Sorry, 3. For anyone who's curious, I'm using Oto pens. They're liquid ink ballpoints. They're essentially designed to be tech pen replacements. And I just love the way the ink comes out of these. I used to be a devout marker user. In fact, I have some markers I'm very, very fond of. This is the brand, my most favorite brand of marker right now. It's also a liquid ink. It's brilliant. I found these just before, maybe a year before I found the Otos. It's a felt tip marker, but it has liquid ink in there. Let's see if I can get it to blub around. It can't. Okay, it's already there. and it flows beautifully. They don't last as long as some of the other markers, but I get a nice quality ink line out of it, and it does exactly what I want it to do all the time, essentially. Here we go. Yeah, we're gonna have to realize that as a culture, the world's changed so much that we have to start changing how we're still governing as if it was 100 years ago, and things are so different now that we have to reapproach how we govern, how we do taxes, how we deal with work. We have more and more people, fewer and fewer jobs. That is literally the conundrum we have, and no one seems to be wrestling with that equation at a political level yet, because generally speaking, the news media, all our news media is owned by the corporations who are desperately trying to wring every last dollar out for their shareholders right now. So it's there's an intrinsic bias. I mean, imagine if like Anderson Cooper, said something along the lines of like corporations are inherently evil and we have to start changing how we allow them to do stuff. He'd be fired. He'd be fired immediately. Um, and it wouldn't be, and no one would be surprised. So we have to do something, man. And this AI is just the tip of the iceberg. Sorry for the rants, all these political rants. So here we go. I do like fountain pens. I have fountain pens for my sketchbook. Yeah. Corporations were very different. I mean, pre Eisenhower, the basic tax rate was something like 90%. And granted, there was a whole bunch of other things that were changed with that. But the changes that Reagan wrought on the world, such an evil man. The changes that Reagan brought to the world as president just made corporations so much worse. The whole greed is good thing. I mean, just the fact that Oliver Stone made a movie criticizing corporations, and the key statement of the bad guy of greed being good became a mantra for executives and guys working on the stock market. Such a terrible, terrible change of things. We should have done so much better. I think you can see what I'm doing. I'm the lines I initially started in the face are really fine lines going back and forth like this. I want to get the idea he's literally rocking because he's a rock star. But I'm actually bringing those lines across the stuff where the light's hitting his coat. And I'm probably going to do some brush work to fill in the blacks, and then white paint. Lots and lots and lots of white paint, because I'm deciding to try and make it look like this. This is like the entire fretboard, the guitar, everything just bursting with light. Hopefully, I'm not pissing people off talking about politics. I heard about some new pens that did take. I did try. Where is it? Do I have it handy, or did I use it in a different part of the apartment? I have a brush pen, a refillable brush pen, and I made the mistake of putting in India ink designed for fountain pens, and it killed the brush pen. Yeah, I think I used it in a different part of the studio or a different part of the apartment. Sorry. It's a Sable fountain pen, so that's a replacement. So I had to replace it. I also went and bought some new brushes, brush tips, because they allow you to buy new brush tips for these pens. Great, love these pocket brush pens that are out there. But yeah, I saw ads for brand new fountain pens that actually have permanent ink in it without gumming up the works. I'm really impressed with where that technology is coming from. Such a hypocrite. Oh well, I like this technology. I don't like that technology. Given a chance, I will always put all the lines in a drawing. I'm terrible that way. I remember one time I posted a drawing, something like this with like just infinite number of lines, and someone said, "Leave some lines for the rest of us, dude." And I thought that was hilarious. I think I'm going to buy some. I'm going to be doing a transition from the implied top of the jacket here into like the solid blacks, and I should probably have like the 5, because that'd be nice. Think throwing tons of ink down. The near black I got here, I'd be able to get with the 5 really quickly. Make sure I'm not spreading any ink around. Jacket, shadow coming out through there, shadow through there. Yeah, I think this is starting to come together. Will it be done by 9? I don't know. Thank you, Ensign. I do love toast, though. I am a. There was a point at which I was really tempted to purify and simplify my work as much as Toast did. But then suddenly there's a wave of all these artists who were like doing that. They were literally toasting their work in a very extreme way, and I have a hard time when I might end up being a joiner. There's a little bit of that Oscar Wilde. I wouldn't want to be a member of a club that would have me. So it's yeah, I love Toth a lot, but I also love not being part of the herd. There's and on. I mean, it's like, oh, God, of the new Toast disciples. I mean, you look at John Paul Leon, and you kind of go, well, you can't touch him. I mean, so why bother trying? Um, so I'm happy being my working in my scribbly, artsy, way too much ink, way too much time rendering style. I'm gonna be posting a Frankenstein cover I did recently tomorrow, and I'll probably share the black and white. If you follow my Patreon, you've already seen it. It's only $1 a month. My Patreon. Please support me. It helps buy me gas every month. Um, but yeah, it's got so many lines. It's what I do, man. It's what I do. I add lines. Now there was part of me that thought like you see me use post-it notes a lot as like quick masks. There'd be yes. Oh wow, that's a medical appointment. I just don't have time to pick it up. So I can mask off that part of the jacket and do this, and it'll give me a super clean edge right here. But it's almost mechanical. Actually, you know what though? I've done enough organic lines there. I'm gonna do a little bit more. I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I was gonna say it's too mechanical for what I'm doing, but I can do it quickly. And what it does is it immediately creates that value shift. And it allows me to get those edges show up, even though I'm not like carefully limiting the values. So it creates a hard line where I didn't really have to draw one. You can do that here too. And the more beat up you know what? I'm gonna have to take this. Sorry about that. I have medical appointments for an infection I had, and they said they were going to call me this weekend to set up appointments. I did not think that they would call at 8:30 at night. So I'm going to have to make appointments tomorrow to deal with these people. I understand they're busy. They're doing what they can. I tried calling them back, but they weren't picking up. Nothing I can do now. So sorry, shouldn't have. They shouldn't be calling at 8:30 at night to make medical appointments for the week. That just seems, just bad planning. I mean, let's face it. How many people are really available for that type of information on a weekend? So, yeah. So bad move on their part. So sorry. Oh yeah, I'm not on mute now anymore. Figure I had to make an attempt. I just want to get some lines in here because I'm going to be very loose with the brush coming in. I don't know how much areas I'm going to go solid black, if at all, at this point. But I want to get a lot of texture down that I may play around with later. I have two sizes of Post-its. I have the stack of these, like, I don't know, 1.5 inch, 1.25 inch, and then these 2x2 inch ones. And they seem to do a lot of the work for me. I also have like rolls of Frisket for, especially when I'm doing rubber stamp work. They seem to come in really, really handy. Let me get this in here. There we go. Animation bucks. Ooh. Honestly, animators don't make a lot of money either. I'm really heartened to hear that the special effects guys at Marvel they're forming a union. Because one of the big disasters of modern movie making with the advent of CGI is that CGI houses didn't immediately join an established union. So you had situations where, like, the special effects house that did the Oscar-winning special effects for The Life of Pi was already out of business by the time the award was given out, because corporations they do special effects in a really, really terrible way. Look how black that gets along those lines. What they do is they go to the special effects house and say, you know what, we have a rack of 50 shots we need special effects for. And that's literally all the information they're given. 50 scenes. No idea how much work is in each shot. Right? That's the limit of what they have to deal with. And so they might say, oh, we're just changing, we're just adding hair to William Shatner in this scene. And that took us like a day. But another one is we have all the Avengers exploding through a building as these aliens descend from the sky, and Mephisto's coming out from underneath New York City. And that's really a 7-month-long shot to work on, and they have to do it with the other 500 shots they bid on successfully. So it's a terrible system. And the producers, the MPT, don't want to change it because it's great for them. They don't care if it's terrible for the entirety. They don't care if it's terrible for the rest of the industry. They don't care if the special effects are bad. As far as we know, bad special effects do not keep people away from movies. As far as we know, special effects, as long as they're there, are going to be complained about when they're bad. But people will still go see a movie if they're interested in it. If Barbie had bad special effects, it wouldn't affect most of the screen people attending the movie. Certainly the producers wouldn't care. The people who care about good special effects are the directors, the actors who are in them because they don't look like looking like they're made out of plastic, um, and the people who did the special effects. They hate it when their work looks terrible. Oh yeah, I forgot to do that. Hang on. I'm going to do. What do I want to do? So I want to do it on his face here. Yeah, let me mask a little bit over here and then do some of this stuff here. Now, the more I use these Post-its, the sticky front edge that really stays on nicely gets looser, and the pen starts sneaking under, which is great in areas where you don't want that line to be so precise. But I don't want lines shooting across his face because then I just have to correct them. So that's when I just start stroking in one direction. Whereas otherwise I can just scribble back and forth and I get like more of a random line happening, which is great. And I don't mind line going into the hair because I'll be painting out highlights as I go in there. I haven't seen the latest season. Apparently, or movie. I heard it's great. I think I missed the previous season. So I'm gonna have to look for a streaming service. And I think what I want to do is because it's been years, I want to find a streaming service that carries all the Venture Brothers, or maybe just buy a box set and watch them all building up to the latest movie, just to refresh myself with it because it's been so good for so long. I'm gonna just look at this in the mirror, see how it's holding up. Okay, so that's doing pretty much what I wanted to do. All right. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape off the edges so I can be a little looser and messier with the paint and the brush strokes. I'm going to put the big roll of green tape. Got my smaller rolls here. Got my super fat roll of green tape. Oh, there it is. Roll behind some stuff in my big cluttery studio. And the entire time I'm working in this, I got American Roulette running through the back of my head. Also have thinner blue tape. And I get most of this stuff from either online shopping or the dollar store. I get all my green tape from the dollar store, which makes it super cheap. Although it's not $1. Dollar store lies. It's not $1 anymore. It's like it starts at $1, which inflation. Do I need to tape this off? Yeah, let me tape that off for the blue, just in case there's a spill. There we go. All right. What brush do I want to use? Oh, you know what? I'm going to use. I save all my beat up brushes. I save them because they're always going to be useful tools. And I also do things like, here's a pop lid, like from a bottle of pop. And I take some ink and I put it in there so I'm not dipping right into my ink bottles so I can seal them up fast. And it allows me to get dry brush action happening. So that's what I'm going to be doing here. I'm going to be doing some dry brush on this to see how that works out. Bloop. And when I trim my big old sheets of bristle board, I always save the spare cuttings because they're great for soaking up excess ink. So, do I want another brush on? Do I want that one or do I want to use one of the other ones? I got a range of completely destroyed brushes I use. Yeah, I'll stick with this one. So I put a little bit of ink on it. Go a little dark in there. So what I do is I start in areas where the lines are and I let it brush into it, and it kind of obfuscates some of the white space in the lines, makes it closer to dark. So when I go to black, it feels more natural. And I usually stroke in the same direction as the pen work. And eventually they essentially become the same thing. You know what I mean? Know what I mean? I mean, I could just start and say, okay, you know what? I know I'm going to go black here. And start brushing up towards it. This is a vellum textured paper. You can see some of the texture in the paper. Let me put it up closer to the cameras. So you can see some of the surface where it's like leaving like clumps, little, like dark spots. And it's a great tool. It's if you're never going to do any dry brush and your line work needs to be precise, you probably want to use like a plate finish or super smooth finish paper. But since I'm always relying on weird little textural events, I always prefer a nice vellum stock. Now this, I believe, is Eon paper. I think it might be one of my last sheets. I'm gonna have to place an order soon. And I think Eon, I know some people have had some difficulties with it, but compared to Strathmore, I think Eon is far better and far more consistent than Strathmore is right now. And so I had some older Strathmore. I'll be drawing Conan on these massive sheets of Strathmore I cut. Try and keep the brushes beat up as possible because then everything starts splitting apart here and then it gives me different strokes in the ink. And I'm building up the values kind of slow on purpose because I don't want to go too aggressive and then have everything screw up and then I have to start doing white paint lines inside it. Hey, Raul, thanks for stopping by. Just catching up here a bit. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to watching everything before it. Let me talk a little bit about next week. Because I mentioned Conan. I managed to track down number one of the first of the new Conan series from Heroic Signatures via Titan, and it is gorgeous. Roberto Del Toro is a god. He is so good. He's channeling Bishima in a really amazing way. and it's so good to see. And Jim wrote a baller of a story. I'm so looking forward to, like, I think the second issue, because there was a delay with the first issue, I think the second issue is going to be out at the end of the month. So it's 2 issues in the very first month it's coming out, which is great. But since I managed to track down the first issue, I managed to grab the sketch cover. So unless someone comes in and says, I want to commission you to draw something, which is going to be a priority for these streams. Someone wants a commission, I'm going to do it live. I'm going to do a Conan sketch cover. And then, of course, whatever that goes for will go to my local food bank, because that's my go-to charity. I might do Hero Initiative too down the road. But honestly, there's been a lot of stuff in the news that food banks really, really struggled during the pandemic. And apparently they're still struggling. So I'm going to try and help. It's essentially my go-to charity. I think if you've been following me for any length of time, it's my go-to charity. I didn't get any ink on that. There we go. I'm brushing away, and it's like, oh, it's still so dark. What's going on? Yeah. So I'll probably I'll probably be doing the Conan sketch cover next Sunday. Really grab it. It's a really lovely. It's like this off-white paper. Has a nice texture to it, so it falls into that vellum thing. It actually has a Pinocchio cover underneath it, so you're not missing out on the cover. I might do a wraparound. Have it go flat. But I think most people, my experience, most people who get sketch covers, they've slabbed them. So, and if they're slabbed, you really don't see the back. There's a whole bunch of information on the back. Last time I saw slabs, so I'll probably just do like a Conan here. Just Jim says the paper is really good. You can see that they actually printed the value on it, because it's, I don't know if the value shows up here, but it's very white there on the inside, and it's like this cream color on the front. So that's what I'm doing next week again, barring a commission. I want a little bit more dark in here. Might mask off the fret so I can actually just brush right across the fret, and then let it go up lighter here. So I might go like, and then go darker from there. Let it go into shadows here. Yeah, I'm figuring this out. And then I'm going to do all this white paint stuff all over it. You know what? I wonder if the tape is the right thickness for that. I don't mind getting on the back edge of it. Oh wow, look at that! It's the exact thickness I need for that. So I can brush across the fret there. Yay! Stroke this way, the edge from the tape will keep it from completely obliterating the back edge too. Just mask off a bit more of that fret there so I can just do some stuff here. Yeah, I use these Post-its until they essentially don't stick anymore. And that way I feel less bad about like all the potential environmental stuff I'm doing. Because, you know, being an artist is not necessarily the most environmentally friendly career. Just to go with. It may seem weird that I'm taking so long to fill in like black areas because it's like I don't know how black I want to go with these areas. So I'm kind of like, should it go darker? Should it go darker? I'm making it a little dark, and then I'm going in and making it a little bit darker, and then I'm going in and making it a little bit darker because I want to be happy with the result and not have to do a lot of like fixes out of the with white paint. Put a little bit of masking. I know I'm putting white paint in the hair when I'm finished, so I don't mind some brush going into the hair. I might even do some line work on top of this. Reverse this around. This protected a bit. I don't want to have any accidents on that part. Again, I might be doing some splatter there, so that doesn't. All right. Too much white in here. Let's push it back a bit. Sorry, I just banged the camera with my forehead. Questions? Dan's cover is so good. Mort Drucker. Well, the thing is, Mort Drucker, a lot of people like forget that Mort Drucker is just an amazing draftsman. There is nothing wrong. I think because you know the Mad Magazine reference might put some people off, but I think that's an amazing compliment. I think Mort Drucker was his use of line was insane. I mean, it was just so good. So that's a hell of a compliment. I'm pretty sure Dan would be happy to hear that too. I don't think we never talked about Mort Drucker, but I with that wonderful little thick thin play that Dan does in his work so much, I'd be highly surprised if he isn't aware of the level of Drucker in his work. There we go. This is coming together. Here we go. There's too much white in there. Gotta push that back a bit. Some a little too much white in there too. Let me just use a brush to pull. Well, there's always going to be a little bit of moist ink trapped in a brush, and if you're diligent, you get used to what you can pull out of a brush in terms of like values and stuff. one more like that. Oh, okay, great. So yeah, yeah. More Drucker. I mean, if you've seen his EC work, and his other commercial work outside of his cartoony Mad Magazine type inspired stuff, he was just so good. And I think he's one of those like underrated giants of the industry. He did so much good work that a lot of people forget. Sorry, he did so much good work in the Mad Magazine humor style. A lot of people forget that he was like, I mean, he's just so brilliantly talented with so many different other genres and styles and approaches. I kind of want to buy like a super, not a hacky brush, but like a really wide one of these brushes I can destroy with ink. So I'm getting kind of the gradation I want. I might go back in with some pen to um, add some direction to this. Add some of that line back up into this whiter space up here. Gotta be careful I don't get getting lines that I don't want from value shifts. I think I need to carve out more dark here. I think just scumbling the brush around, building up that value there. Okay. So yeah, I want. Can we make a mark with that? Is there enough left there? Yeah, there is. Good. The one problem with using the little pop cap to hold my ink is I do have to refill it a lot. But one of the benefits of having a piece of cardboard off to the side that I'm continually hitting with. Oh, did I move this a bit? Here we go. Oh, there we go. I think people are not able to see what I'm working on. That's probably from my banging the camera. And I just blanked on what I was talking about. Thanks. Well, we'll never know. I don't know if Robbie was as much about food banks as I was. I mean, he was in California, but I do believe he did a lot of good works in his life. So I think he'd probably appreciate it going to a food bank. right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little trick. I think I showed this before. I have this really fat Sharpie paint marker. And if you get some of the liquid paint off of it to start, it gives you a very controllable dry brush effect. So I want to get that at play in this too. So this is the Sharpie paint pen. I managed to get, oh look, I'm an artist. I got black ink on my hands. I should make sure it's, there we go. Flip it. It's still got lighter up in this corner, but not as light as I initially thought, and I think that's for the best. So I think I might have some white paint coming back down into the image as well. But I could do an ASMR channel of just my scribbling ink on paper. All right. I do have to do a few little touch-up areas, a little bit more dry brush with another beat-up brush. This is a store brand brush. Graphics. Oh my God. This was the main chain I would buy art supplies at in Toronto when I moved out here. They no longer exist. So the store was called Graphics. A little bit in there. Just breaking up areas of white where it's just too intense. As dark as this piece is, I want to control where the areas of white are. So I'm just scumbling in a little bit of dirty line work from this beatable brush. It just pushes the values down. That goes in the water. Now pull up one of my white paint pens. All right, where's an open one? Got a bunch of them. I'm not going to use a Pentel quite yet, so I don't know if I'm going to use that. I wonder if this one's sharp enough. It's fine for this. All right. So a bit. Mm-hmm. All right, so my usual, I just let put a bunch of gesso on my old Batman mug, my toothbrush. Oh God, I'm wearing all black. Yeah, I'm an artist. Everything's black. Let's start doing a little bit of splatter. I want it to feel like it's glowing. I have to go through and pull out some heavy chunks of paint that landed. Break up those frets a bit more. All right, I think that's it. I think the sucker is done. Yeah, so I'm going to clean up some of the white paint that landed on the fretboard, and to do that, I first go-to is in the white area. I'm going to dab it with a paper towel. That will actually reveal some of the black ink that got obliterated in there, so some detail will come back in there. It also stops the scan from getting screwed up by that. Push that coat back a bit more. So I'll do a little bit more line work with a 1, I think. Yeah, it's like it's never done. It gets there, it gets close, and then it gets closer, and then it gets a little closer, and then it gets a little closer. I just want to push down the value of the coat underneath here. All right. Oh, do I have a white ballpoint that's writing right now? There we go. All right. Where do I want to sign it? There. Feels like everything's on that side, so maybe I should sign it over here at the bottom. You guys can't see where I'm pointing right here. I'm down here, way down here. And then, of course, it doesn't make a mark. Wonderful. Although, actually, hang on. Give them some half-ass ghosty white lines there. You have to. Maybe this one will make a line. I hate these gel pens because sometimes they give you these great lines, and sometimes they just stop. They'll give you like an inch of white paint line, and then they'll just kind of screw you. That's my experience, and that's why I like the white paint pens. They just seem more trustworthy, reliable. That's the word I'm going to go for here. Actually, I'm going to use a white paint pen. Don't like how thick that is, but so what I'll do is I'll go in with some. So there's Robbie. He's done. I'll scan him and I'll probably post him. Tomorrow I'm supposed to post Frankenstein thing, so I'll probably post this Tuesday. So yeah. So if you're interested in this, it's an 11 by 17 piece. Let me pull off the tape so you can actually see what it looks like. It's an 11 by 17 piece. I think if I was doing this as a commission, it'd probably be somewhere in the $300 to $400 range, US. And so I guess I'll take offers starting at $100 plus $20 shipping. You can reach me through any of my social medias things. I'll give it a day or two to get the biggest offer for it. And if someone comes around and offers like $350 right now, I'll take it. Just because that means I can donate money to the food bank faster. But yeah, so this one's gonna go for. All right, so thank you all for joining in. I'll be doing this again next Sunday. Please subscribe and like this video. I'm a long way away from the something like 4,000 hours of views and 1,000 subscriptions actually monetized. But more people supporting this means more people see it, which means more people see it and enjoy the work, which is the point of being an artist, people enjoying your work. You want to support me more directly? I have a $1 a month Patreon. It's Richard_Pace. You get to see all my preliminaries, a lot of roughs, a lot of stuff that I don't post on other social media. A lot of work already up there. My Instagram is Richard_Pace. On Blue Sky, I'm on Twitter, as long as Twitter is existing. So feel free to follow me on any of those places. And next week, again, Conan, which would be fun. And I want you all to have a lovely night and an amazing week. And I'm excited to see you all in 7 days. Good night.